Can you loan me $5? I haven't eaten in 3 days, Mom said, leaving me stunned. What did that mean? I was confused.
I will not lend it. No way.
Next to me, Jackson, shaking and wide-eyed, erupted in anger. How can you not lend just $5 when she hasn't eaten anything? Jackson calmed down at my words, returning to his usual gentle demeanor.
I'm sorry about earlier. What I meant was, I won't be financially supporting Tristan anymore,
he explained. I understood where Jackson was coming from. He must have thought it would be strange if Tristan was exploiting Mom. My name is Alyssa. I'm a 55-year-old housewife. I live in a detached house with my husband Jackson, who is 5 years my senior. Our 2 children have grown up and moved out after getting jobs. It's a bit lonely, but Jackson and I are enjoying a peaceful life after parenting. Jackson isn't much of a talker, but he's kind, gentle, and I've never seen him raise his voice. After retiring at 65, Jackson got hired at his old company, commuting about 3 days a week. At my parents' home, Mom and Dad live together. Jackson has an older brother by 3 years, Tristan. Unlike Jackson, Tristan is quick to speak his mind and often becomes emotional. The brothers are complete opposites. Mom's hobby was listening to stand-up comedy on a small boombox. She had a large collection of stand-up comedy tapes and often laughed at them since I was a child. Dad was as kind as Mom, and I barely remember being scolded by him. Dad used to work in a restaurant and was skilled in cooking. I learned a lot about cooking from him. Dad enjoyed cooking steaks for family gatherings at Christmas and the like. I remember Tristan looking up to him, thinking it was cool. Dad often cooked dinner on weekdays. Sitting at the living room table, drinking coffee with Mom, waiting for Dad's cooking, Mom would say with a smile, "It's the opposite of most homes, with Dad busy in the kitchen and me relaxing," which was memorable. Seeing Mom's happy smile, I always thought I wanted to be like them when I got older. Then Dad passed away. He seemed healthy, but was suffering from cancer. His condition worsened rapidly, and Mom hardly had time to grieve. For a while, Mom became like a shell of herself, often zoning out. Worried that she might fall ill from grief, my children kept visiting and encouraging her. Thanks to that, Mom regained her spirits and could live smilingly like before. Around that time, Tristan decided to quit his job and open a pub. Perhaps influenced by my dad, who was a chef, Tristan is easily influenced. Maybe he thought Dad's knife skills were cool. The family opposed his decision to go independent in a not-so-great economic climate. Jackson was against it too. Tristan's selfish nature meant he would likely fail if he went out on his own, we thought. I doubted Tristan's chances of success, focusing only on appearances. Pouring his savings into it and mortgaging his apartment for a loan, Tristan opened the pub, but his arrogance was his downfall. Customers soon stopped coming, and the pub closed within a year. Family relations soured as the business failed, and his wife left him with their children when the pub closed. Tristan lost his family and apartment, leaving him with nothing but debt. Homeless, Tristan turned to my parents' house. While everyone blamed Tristan, only my mom was kind to him. "If you have nowhere to live, you can stay with us," she offered, suggesting they lived together. I was more worried than opposed. I could easily imagine Mom being troubled by Tristan's selfish and headstrong nature. Jackson shared my concerns, but to Tristan, it was as if luck had finally turned his way, and he moved in regardless. Looking back, this kindness would lead to unfortunate outcomes. Tristan, now living at my parents' house like a parasite, spent his days doing nothing in particular, just lazing around. Whenever I visited Mom, he was often lying on the sofa with a beer in one hand and a horse racing newspaper in the other. It seemed Tristan had become entirely too comfortable staying at my parents' home. After a while, Tristan got remarried without consulting or even informing us beforehand. as he began to live with Mom in my childhood home. His new wife, Abigail, was 9 years his junior, known for her flashy makeup and long nails. I met her once. She had a loud voice and was quick to speak her mind. I was worried about how Abigail's assertive personality would mesh with Mom's, wondering if they could get along. Abigail worked at Tristan's favorite bar and shared his interest in horse racing, which is how they got close. Tristan said she showed him how to enjoy life, though his idea of enjoyment was questionable. One rare occasion, Tristan and Abigail visited our home. They were job hunting without success and asked for a loan until they could find employment.
Could you support us just until I find my next job?
Tristan asked nonchalantly, legs crossed arrogantly on the sofa. His manner of asking made me doubt whether he was truly in need. I've been thinking of starting part-time work too, but it's been hard to find anything. Abigail's tone was humble, yet something seemed off. I also noticed the expensive brand-name bag Abigail carried, which bothered me. Indeed, Tristan had lost everything after his business failure. That much was true.
All right, we'll help, but please make an effort to find work.
Jackson must have had his reservations, but decided to support Tristan, his only brother. Like Jackson, I too thought it was best to support Tristan. We decided to provide Tristan and his wife with $2,000 a month for living expenses, money we had saved for our retirement, choosing to give it without mentioning anything. I believed this bad situation wouldn't last forever. Jobs would be found, the need for financial support would end, and they might even start repaying us, I hoped. In hindsight, my optimism was perhaps too great. A year passed without a word from Tristan and his wife. Unable to bear the lack of communication any longer, we decided to visit their home. No answer came from ringing the doorbell for a while, until Abigail finally responded, but only through the door, refusing to open it. It's really inconvenient when you just show up without warning. You should at least call ahead. It's rude. Abigail snapped, not bothering to open the door. Even as I insisted on being let in, she refused. We're busy right now, was all she would say. That day we left, defeated by Abigail's persistence. What concerned me more than the money was Mom. I would later regret not insisting on entering their home that day. A shocking event occurred just a few days after our visit to Tristan's. That day, a hurricane was passing through, with heavy rain and wind lashing outside. We had closed the shutters early and were hunkered down at home. Deep into the night, startled by the rain and wind hammering at the shutters, the doorbell rang repeatedly. Ding dong! Ding dong! Ding dong! Ding dong! Wondering what was happening, I decided to check on it, thinking it might be Tristan. Looking through the doorbell monitor, I saw Mom, drenched in the rain. Alyssa, help me! Mom pleaded through the doorbell. Rushing to the door, Jackson and I opened it to find Mom soaked, hair a mess from the storm covered in grass and leaves, wearing sandals with her feet full of small cuts. Can you loan me $5? I haven't eaten in 3 days, Mom said, leaving me stunned. What did that mean? I was confused.
I will not lend it, no way.
Next to me, Jackson, shivering and wide-eyed, erupted in anger. I was at a loss for words at Jackson's firm refusal. Mom shrank back at Jackson's overly stern tone. She looked like she might collapse at any moment. It was the first time I saw Jackson so angry, raising his voice. I couldn't hold back and retorted to Jackson. How can you not lend just $5 when she hasn't eaten anything? Jackson, jolted by my words, returned to his usual calm demeanor. Then, with tears welling up, he let Mom into the house.
I'm sorry for raising my voice,
he apologized. Mom entered, looking bewildered, and took a seat on the living room sofa. I handed her a bath towel to prevent a cold, given her drenched state. Taking a good look at Mom again, I saw she had become thin. Her once full hair, now sparse and thin. her fingers skeletal. What had happened to Mom? I was filled with questions. Jackson spoke to Mom gently, apologizing again.
I'm sorry about earlier. What I meant was that we won't be financially supporting Tristan anymore.
I understood Jackson's feelings. He probably thought it wouldn't be odd if Tristan was exploiting Mom. But right now, my concern was Mom. Mom, are you okay? Mom remained silent, looking down.
Mother-in-law, how about you stay with us for a while?
Mom stayed silent.
Has Tristan said something to you?
After a long look at Jackson, Mom slowly started to speak. But you are all bothered by me, right? You hate me, don't you? Confused by Mom's inexplicable words, Jackson and I exchanged puzzled looks. Why would she think that? Mom continued, looking at us sternly. You and Jackson have come to hate me. That's what Tristan told me. What are you talking about? That's not true at all. I couldn't help but respond. There's no way we would hate our beloved Mom. Mom began to cry, sobbing. We've always loved you, Mom. There's no way we can hate you. We've missed you so much. I embraced Mom without hesitation. Mom hugged me back and started crying loudly. She talked about trying to leave the house in the middle of the night like a sleepwalker, wanting to see me. Since then, she was tied to the bed, unable to move. Not allowed to go to the bathroom. She was left with diapers by the bed. She was only untied for using the toilet, eating, and doing house chores. Mom's meals were limited to oatmeal, only twice a day. Tristan and Abigail constantly fed her lies about Jackson and me, claiming we had abandoned her, always hated her, piling up falsehoods. They would leave Mom restrained and not return, leaving her without food for 3 days. Unable to shower or use the toilet, she was forced to rely on diapers. Believing her life was at risk, Mom managed to free herself and escape. Hearing the shocking extent of her suffering, we were speechless. Such cruelty was beyond human. Were Tristan and his wife devils? All I felt was immense pity for Mom. Considering the distance, it would take an hour on foot under normal circumstances. Much longer for Mom, especially during a hurricane. The thought of her struggle to reach us brought me to tears.
Don't worry, from now on, we'll protect you.
Mom nodded repeatedly to these words, relieved. So what was all that Tristan and Abigail told you?
It turns out everything they said was a lie.
Mom looked shocked, never having doubted others or experienced such malice. A series of unbelievable events for Mom.
Probably Tristan was counting on living here and targeting your old age pension.
But don't worry, we'll take care of you, Mom. Mom, reassured by those words, smiled warmly. I made clam chowder for Mom, Dad's specialty. Mom murmured nostalgically. It brings back memories. Savoring it. Jackson, tears in his eyes, muttered to himself while looking at Mom.
I'll never forgive Tristan and the others for putting you through this.
When I asked Mom where Tristan and the others were, she mentioned they went to Kentucky for horse racing. It seems there's a big race tomorrow, so they probably won't return until then. Jackson and I began plotting our retaliation. The next morning, I prepared Dad's recipes for breakfast for Mom. Mom, who had lost her appetite, ate only a little, but commented, It's been a long time since I've had something this delicious. Seeing Mom eat with a smile made my heart ache even more. How could someone as kind and unsuspecting as Mom have gone through such hardship? After finishing her meal, Mom quietly started to speak. They said they didn't like my attitude. Too pretentious. They kicked me. I gasped in shock. How could anyone do something so terrible? My heart ached with sorrow for what Mom had endured, and tears spilled over. Mom tenderly wiped away my tears. Alyssa, I'm sorry for bringing this up. Mom looked down, apologetic. Mom, it's not your fault. We'll protect you from now on. You won't have to go through this ever again. Mom looked at me with a smile. I returned the smile to Mom. After breakfast and calming down, I took Mom, who had showered, to the hospital. The diagnosis revealed severe malnutrition and dehydration. Given her age, hospitalization was advised, so Mom was admitted for a few days. No other illnesses were found, and she could be discharged soon once her nutrition improved. However, the doctor, after examining Mom, asked about her living situation in a stern tone. I detailed the circumstances Mom was in. The doctor suspected I might be abusing her. After my explanation cleared up the misunderstanding, the doctor smiled and said they would contact social services. Abuse was strongly suspected. This was exactly what I had hoped for, so I readily agreed. Soon, a social service agent arrived and discussed Mom's diet, confinement, and the violence she suffered. Mom's body had bruises all over. The agent, shocked by the severity, said they would consult with the police. Watching Mom sleep peacefully, I regretted not noticing sooner and visiting her. My tears streaming down my face. Mom, I promise we won't forgive them. They will pay for this. I gripped my mom's frail hand tightly. Mom woke up and smiled at me. When you go to my house, please bring the boombox and the stand-up comedy tapes, all of them. Those were Mom's favorites. I nodded firmly. The next morning, Jackson and I headed to Tristan's family home. My anger surpassed my sadness. But Jackson was even angrier than I was. We thought no one was home when our doorbell presses went unanswered, so we were about to leave when a sleepy voice finally responded. Knowing Tristan and the others were inside, we used the key we had to open the front door and entered. Abigail, surprised to see us in the living room. "What are you two doing here all of a sudden?" exclaimed. When I confronted Abigail with, "What's wrong with the children visiting their parents' home?" she hesitated, saying, "Well, it's not that, but..." trailing off. Looking around the house, it was overflowing with trash, and the smell of rotten food hit my nose. The floor felt sticky. "Such a mess. When do you ever clean up?" Jackson asked in astonishment. Tristan, lying on the sofa, clicked his tongue at us. "That old lady doesn't clean up," Tristan mumbled, to which Jackson sharply responded, "Hey, you had mother-in-law take care of even the trash." Jackson glared at him with piercing eyes. Tristan covered his mouth, realizing his mistake, and left the living room. Jackson hurled words at Tristan as he walked away. "Your breath smells like alcohol. Have you been drinking all night?" I took another look at Abigail. Abigail's hair was disheveled. Her shirt was stretched out at the neck, revealing her undershirt. Her makeup seemed not fully removed, with black smudges around her eyes. Noticing my scrutinizing gaze, Abigail, perhaps embarrassed, looked down with a sour expression. "When you visit someone's house, it's common courtesy to call ahead. It's annoying otherwise." Abigail picked up a barely smoked cigarette from the ashtray and lit it. "So your idea of normal is sleeping past noon without cleaning?" Abigail was at a loss for words. As Abigail struggled to respond, Tristan came back shouting loudly, "Hey, where'd that old lady go?" He must have just realized the bed was empty. "We're taking care of her. She was in such bad shape nutritionally that we had her admitted to the hospital. A little later, and it could have been life-threatening." I exaggerated a bit about Mom's condition. Tristan glared at Abigail. "That's what I said. You went too far." Abigail, fed up, retorted to Tristan, You're the one who said to tie her up because she's noisy at night.
Besides, it's her fault for not helping out around the house, even though we feed her.
Listening to them start insulting each other, I felt an unbearable anger. Mom hadn't eaten for 3 days, and she had no money at all. It's too much. It can't be helped. Tristan doesn't work, so we have no income. We're saving money. Yet Tristan and Abigail looked well-fed and had healthy complexions with fat around their bellies. Despite that, you two are fat and look healthy.
And where have you been these past few days?
Wherever we want to be. Abigail turned sullen and evasive. Jackson picked up a horse race and threw it at Tristan.
You were at the horse races in Kentucky. We already know.
Tristan scratched his head, looking uncomfortable.
Well, that's,
Seeing Tristan and Abigail's unrepentant, parasitic way of life, stealing from others, filled me with anger and tears. While Mom was wasting away, you two didn't work, living off the money we sent and Mom's old age pension, going out and about. Jackson, too, must have been furious, raising his voice to denounce Tristan.
You didn't even provide mother-in-law with proper meals, tying her to the bed at night.
According to Mom, Tristan and Abigail had been living a slothful life, squandering the money Jackson sent and Mom's old age pension on drinking, gambling at horse races and casinos. Where's your proof? The old lady must be making it all up. Abigail came at us aggressively. Is this Abigail's true nature? Reluctantly, I decided to present the evidence. I brought the boombox Mom cherished from the bed she had been sleeping in to the living room. In the living room, I inserted a stand-up comedy cassette tape into the boombox.
Why? How does stand-up comedy prove anything? Gonna teach us a lesson, comedian?
Tristan and Abigail looked at me with a sneering smile. I pressed the play button regardless.
Just tie her up. We're going to make a killing at the horse races in Kentucky, so behave.
See, if you don't behave, you'll hurt like last time.
When we get back, tell us where the banking card and seal are.
Really? Can't find it anywhere. Where did you hide it? What came out of the boombox wasn't stand-up comedy, but an audio recording of Tristan and Abigail abusing Mom. Mom had recorded the abuse over the stand-up comedy tapes. That's why she wanted them brought to her. Hearing this recording, Tristan and Abigail collapsed to their knees, as if all strength had left them. Was this what Tristan called the joy of life? Mom has become so thin, almost just skin and bones, all because of you two. We don't know anything about that, Abigail shouted back at us loudly. As Jackson and I looked down on Tristan and Abigail, the doorbell rang. Ding dong! They're here. I headed to the door. I returned to the living room with the police and a social services officer. Faced with the unexpected visitors, Tristan and Abigail looked shocked. The social services officer showed Tristan and Abigail the hospital's diagnostic report and the doctor's opinion. The police went to check the bed. You've committed a serious crime. You'll be paying for it from now on.
Let the police thoroughly investigate and see for yourself how terrible the things you've done are.
We also handed over the cassette tape that recorded the abuse to the police. Tristan and Abigail will be judged for their crimes accordingly. Jackson spoke to Tristan.
We won't be sending money anymore. We're cutting ties with you.
This house belongs to Mom. We're going to sell it. Don't come back here. Suddenly, Tristan bowed deeply. Perhaps he finally realized his situation.
Alyssa, if we lose this house, we'll have nowhere to live. I'll really look for a job this time. Please forgive us.
Abigail also bowed deeply. I'll take care of Mother-in-law too. Please forgive us. Now that they found themselves in a desperate situation, their attitude became completely opposite, calmly apologizing. It's too late. We can't trust you two. to anymore.
Please, just this once. Forgive us this one time.
How long will they keep saying just this time? Do they think we'll relent? You will pay for your crimes no matter what. Don't ever contact us again. Jackson pulled out a debit card from the box containing the cassette tapes.
Is this what you were desperately looking for?
The debit card contained the money Dad and Mom had saved diligently and Dad's life insurance. I pulled the debit card out from between the boombox and showed it to Tristan and Abigail.
So it was there all along.
If only we had that. Wow. Tristan and Abigail began to cry out loudly. Even as the police took Tristan and Abigail away, they continued to insult each other. A futile effort till the end. They were crying and wailing as they were forced into the police car and taken away. The evidence against Tristan and Abigail included not just the audio recording of abuse, but also the restraints found on the bed. Additionally, the loud yelling of Tristan at night and Abigail's shrill screams, as reported by neighbors, served as testimony to the abuse. Further investigation revealed that a substantial life insurance policy had been taken out on Mom, leading to intense interrogations day after day. The police, calling it an inquiry, informed me of this. They were likely to be found guilty and face a severe sentence. Tristan and Abigail would be spending some time in prison. I hope they reflect on their crimes and make amends. We are seeking damages from Tristan and Abigail. After their release, they will have to make payments for the rest of their lives. I told Jackson I wanted to live with Mom. He gladly agreed.
Yeah, let's live with mother-in-law.
We decided to consult with Mom and use the money from selling the house for renovations. Although Mom, Jackson, and I are getting on in years, it's the start of a new chapter in our lives. It feels exciting. Mom seems excited too, smiling as she says, "A bigger kitchen would be nice," discussing the house layout with the architect. Our peaceful days continued until our eldest son's wife announced her pregnancy. She wants to raise the child at home after giving birth. Her parents are on an overseas assignment, so they've turned to us for support. For me, it's my first grandchild, and for Mom, her first great-grandchild. So our quiet days will be put on hold for a while as we embark on these busy days ahead. Someday, I want to ask Mom, do you think Jackson and I have become a couple like you and Dad?